Arc used to be my main browser, but as we all know already, it is officially dead. The browser company recently got acquired by Atlassian, which is the parent company of Jira. So the most we can hope for as of now is to not be bombarded with Jira ads while we're browsing the web. So I started searching for an alternative, and that is when I found the Zen browser. It looks really similar to Arc, especially when you consider this sidebar right here, and it's actively being developed by people who actually care about the product. And it's also open source. There is just one small issue, however, and that is that it is Firefox based. Now, I don't know the reasoning behind this, but that's unfortunately the way it is. It's too late to now complain that it isn't Chromium based. And still, all kudos go out to the Zen browser team. And out of respect for them, I actually want to explain why it isn't their fault that I'm not using their browser, but it's actually the thing they're based on. Firefox. Now, if I made a video titled Why You Shouldn't Use Firefox, it'll be like 3 hours long. So let me keep it simple and just stick to one simple thing. So first of all, if you didn't know, I'm actually building an AI chat app called Shiori AI. It's the best on the market right now, but that's kind of besides the point. In Shiori, we make use of so-called HTTP streams. And what this basically is, this is just basically a collection of letters that get streamed into the website. Now, instead of letters, it's actual data. For example, this could be base64 encoded data, or really anything that you can imagine. For example, streaming websites such as YouTube use this to stream the video data into your browser, or also the client. Now at Shiori, we don't directly communicate with the client through HTTP streams, but rather we use an underlying library that handles all this stuff for us. And in our case, this is the AI SDK by Vercel. Now while developing Shiori, I actually need to check what the contents of these streams include, so that if I face any errors, I can actually debug what's happening. Now this would be impossible on Firefox, but it will work on Chromium. Let me tell you why. In Chromium, the way this would work is you just open your DevTools, and then you go to the Network tab, watch for the latest post request, and then you check the contents of that post request. And the contents could look something like this. And this would work not only at the end of the request, but also while the data is being streamed. And this is a crucial part. In Firefox, I can only look at the stream content, which is again this stuff right here, at the end of the request. I cannot check it while it's being streamed. And while this may seem trivial to you, to me, this is probably the most important function for someone developing an AI chat app. And this is just one of the many reasons that I have found using Firefox for me as day-to-day driver just isn't gonna work out. There's another huge issue related to gradients, but I won't go into that now. So I had to go on the hunt once again for a browser that was Chromium based and one that could fit my developer workflow. Eventually I stumbled upon a video by Theo about which browser you should use right now. And if you didn't know, Theo is the former blonde guy that can also skateboard. And one of the browsers that he mentioned during the video is Helium. Now Helium is a Chromium based Chrome alternative that is focused on privacy and UX. So I gave it a shot, except that it really wasn't that easy, at least when I got into Helium. And that is because I actually had to build the entire browser from scratch. Now the process itself isn't really complex. You just install a couple of pip packages and you run this build script that is kindly provided by them. The issue was on my side that it took almost 2 hours to compile. Now thankfully you don't have to do this anymore. You can just come here and download the release. For example, the latest release was released 6 hours ago, so you don't have to bother with compiling manually anymore. And to my surprise, when it actually was done compiling, it felt really good. It solved basically all of my issues except one or maybe two, which I'll get to later. Just keep in mind, they're not really issues, they're more of a preference issue. Now, aside from those preferences, Helium is a great browser. It has a lot of features which you would expect in a browser, but somehow most don't have them. For example, one of them is native banks. Now, what are banks? Banks are basically little keywords that you enter after each search query that redirect you to a specific site. For example, if I wanted to search Google Images for a capybara, what I would do is capybara GI. And it will redirect me to Google Images. Instead of having to go to google.com, searching for capybara, and then go to images, you can just do it with a single query instead. And there are approximately, or specifically, 10,729 banks in total. I mean, you have some for ChatGPT, Perplexity, which is really cool, and also GitHub. Now it's also a perfect fit for developers since they removed a lot of the noise that comes with the Chrome DevTools. For example, all the Gemini stuff, which I personally would never want in my browser. I'm not against the idea itself, their implementation is just way too bad. At least that's what I think. Helium is being maintained by exactly 2 people. I couldn't really find the other person except their GitHub username, but the first one is Wako. So go follow him on X if you haven't yet. He's really active here. Now let's get to the so-called issues of the Helium browser. As I said earlier, they are just my preferences, and in no way am I stating they are objectively correct. First of all, there is no sidebar, and this kind of made me sad at the beginning, since Arc really got me addicted to sidebars, which I went with Zen in the beginning, even though it was Firefox based, and I eventually gave up. I just liked the way Arc did things. I genuinely don't understand why they killed it off. Now, it did take me some time to get used to the old ways, more specifically the horizontal tabs, but I was able to after a couple of days. And trust me, those days were not easy. And secondly, while I do appreciate the focus on privacy, I would have liked a cloud sync feature. And again, that is also how Arc did things, and I think you can start seeing where I get my ideas from. But this is just a feature that I really love about other browsers. For example, Chrome, Edge, Brave, and even Firefox at this point. I even think that LibreWolf has them. But we have to be careful here. LibreWolf is not really the same as Helium. They have a lot of opt-in stuff. They just give you a set of defaults. But honestly, if the creators of the Helium browser don't agree with what I have to say, all power to them. They should not have to listen to me about anything I have to say about their browser. It's their browser after all. And if they do plan to implement a cloud sync feature or even a sidebar in the near future, I'm all for that as well. I just really appreciate the work they're doing, since everybody's appearing to build trashy AI browsers now. And trust me, I'm the last person to call an AI tool trashy if it's useful. Comet is kind of useful, but it just eats up my computer alive. I have an M1 Max Studio Ultra, and even that machine can barely handle the power Comet needs. If you didn't know, Comet is the AI browser made by Perplexity. But that was really the summary on the Helium browser. It's available as of now, it's in beta, but you can already download it. I will leave the link in the description if you're interested. Also, if you think ChatGPT is too slow or just doesn't even work at all, feel free to try out Chiori as well. I'll leave a link in the description. Also, it's half the price. With that said, I'll see you next time.